Was I wrong for telling a coworker to stop the naughty candy act? I keep a small stash of snacks in my office for anyone who drops by. It is something I enjoy doing, and most people just grab a piece, say thanks, and move on. The issue is that a few coworkers turn it into a whole performance every single time. They stand there talking about how they should not have it, how it is so bad, and how they are being naughty for even considering it. It is not just a quick joke either. It turns into this drawn-out moment where they seem to expect me to react, reassure them, or somehow give permission. I usually just smile and say nothing, but they linger and keep going. Over time, it has started to bother me more and more. It feels awkward, and I do not enjoy being pulled into that kind of exchange over something as simple as a piece of candy. Yesterday, one coworker came in and did exactly that again. She stood in the doorway, pointing at the candy, going on about how much she loves it but how she should not have it and how I am bad for keeping it there. After hearing the same routine so many times, I finally said something. I asked her to stop because it was making me uncomfortable. She acted confused, like she did not understand what I meant, so I explained more directly. I told her that it feels strange when she talks like she needs permission and keeps calling it naughty, and that I would prefer if she just took one or did not without turning it into a scene. She said she was only joking and left, but apparently she later told others that I overreacted and made her feel embarrassed. Now I am hearing that some people are avoiding coming into my office for snacks because they think I will react the same way. I am not planning to stop offering candy, and I do not mind people taking it. I just do not like being pulled into that kind of repetitive, awkward interaction. At the same time, I am wondering if the way I said it came off harsher than I intended and if I could have handled it better. Was I wrong for telling my brother-in-law to stop helping his sick friend? My younger sister is 7 months pregnant with her third child, and this pregnancy has been especially hard on her. She is already taking care of 2 very young kids, and lately she has been exhausted, dealing with pain, nausea, and everything that comes with being that far along. To make things harder, she and her husband do not have family nearby because they moved for his job. At the same time, my brother-in-law's closest friend is in the late stages of a serious neurodegenerative illness. His condition has declined to the point where he needs a lot of physical support, and because he is a large man, his wife has been relying on my brother-in-law to help when professional caregivers are not there. I understand that this is a heartbreaking situation, and I know my brother-in-law is trying to be there for someone he cares deeply about. The problem is how much time he is spending away. He is not just visiting for a day or two. He has been gone for long stretches, sometimes weeks at a time, staying with his friend and leaving my sister alone to manage everything at home. That means she is heavily pregnant, caring for 2 toddlers, and dealing with everything on her own. A few nights ago, she called me in tears. One of her kids was sick, she had not slept, and she was feeling completely overwhelmed and physically worn down. Hearing her like that made me angry, and I reacted without thinking it through carefully. I called my brother-in-law and told him he needed to come home and take care of his own family. I said that while his friend's situation is tragic, he cannot keep leaving his wife alone like this. I pointed out that his friend has other support, including a spouse and medical help, while my sister is essentially by herself. He did not take that well. He accused me of telling him to abandon his friend, which I did not mean. I tried to explain that there should be some kind of balance, but the conversation ended badly, and he hung up. Later, it led to a big argument between him and my sister. Now things have escalated. His parents are upset and believe my sister should be more understanding, saying she has handled pregnancies before and should be able to cope. They are also angry at me for stepping in and making the situation worse. I am starting to question whether I overstepped. I was trying to defend my sister because she is clearly struggling, but I also understand that my brother-in-law is dealing with a very difficult situation of his own. I cannot tell if I was right to speak up or if I made an already complicated situation even more tense. Am I wrong for hiding my savings from my family? I am 19 and grew up in a very tight financial situation with my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother. Money has always been a source of stress for all of us. When I started university at a young age and began receiving student loans, things shifted a bit. Not in a life-changing way, but enough that I had access to money they did not. That is when the request started. At first, I was still living at home and contributing monthly to rent and other expenses, which I felt was fair. But on top of that, my aunt began asking me for money regularly, and later my mum did too. When I moved out at 18 for my own mental well-being, the request did not stop. I got a part-time job to support myself, and even though I was not earning much, I still tried to help when I could. There was a point where things escalated. My mom told me she had maxed out her credit cards, and I felt like I had no choice but to step in. I ended up draining my savings to help her and also gave my aunt several loans that I never got back. After that, I told both of them I could not keep doing this. It was too much, and I needed to start thinking about my own future. Over time, I slowly rebuilt some savings. I am trying to be more responsible and put money aside for something meaningful, like eventually having a place of my own. My grandmother, who has also been helping them financially, advised me to keep my savings private so I would not feel pressured again. I took that advice. For the past several months, I have still helped occasionally, but only with small amounts, and I told them that was all I could afford. Recently, everything came to a head. My aunt saw my savings balance on my laptop and realized I had more money than I had been letting on. She was furious and accused me of lying. When my mum found out, she reacted the same way. They argued that if I can spend money on things like going out or personal purchases, then I should be giving more to the family. Since then, they have barely spoken to me and have said that I have abandoned them. Now I feel torn. Part of me feels guilty because I know they are struggling and I do care about them. But another part of me feels exhausted. I have already given so much and it has not changed their situation in the long term. I am trying to build some stability for myself, and it feels like every time I make progress, I am expected to give it up. I keep asking myself if I am being selfish for setting this boundary or if it is reasonable to want to protect my own future. I do not know where the line is between helping family and sacrificing too much of myself. Am I wrong for refusing to subsidize my partner's sister's rent? My partner and I currently share a one-bedroom place and split the rent evenly, which works well for us. Recently, her sister and her sister's husband have run into housing trouble. They have a young child and were staying with a friend, but that arrangement is ending, and they cannot afford to stay on their own. They asked if they could move in with us. The only way that would work is if we upgraded to a two-bedroom place, which would increase the rent by a few hundred each month. I am not against helping them out, but I want things to be fair. My position is that if 4 adults are living in the apartment, the rent should be split evenly between the 4 of us. That means each person will be responsible for a quarter of the total. From my perspective, they are a couple, so how they divide their share between themselves is up to them, but together they should cover half of the rent. They do not agree. Since my partner's sister stays home with the baby and does not earn an income, they feel it is unfair to expect her to contribute. Their suggestion is that the 3 of us who work should split the rent into thirds, leaving her out of the financial responsibility. That is where I push back. I do not feel comfortable taking on a larger share of the rent to make up for this situation. I understand that raising a child comes with challenges and expenses, but that was a choice they made as a couple. I do not think it is reasonable for the choice to become my financial responsibility. Now there's tension. Was I wrong for eating the deer meat stored in our freezer? A couple of years ago, my husband's friend asked if he could store some venison in our deep freezer because he did not have enough space at home. It was not just a small amount either. It was essentially an entire day, broken down into different cuts like steaks, ribs, and ground meat, all properly sealed and labelled. At the time, we agreed to help him out, and it did not seem like a big deal. But what was supposed to be temporary has turned into something much longer. It has now been sitting in our freezer for close to 3 years. A friend comes by occasionally, maybe once a month, and every time he does, I ask if he wants to take some of the meat with him. Every single time, he says he will grab some next time. That next time has never come. So the meat just stays there, taking up space in our freezer while we continue to store it for him. After a while, it started to bother me. Not only is it occupying space that we could use, but I also worry about it eventually going to waste. Even though it is vacuum sealed, it is not going to last forever. So a few times, I have taken some of it and cooked meals for myself instead of letting it sit there unused. My husband does not agree with that decision. He feels that it is not ours to touch, no matter how long it has been there. From his perspective, it still belongs to his friend, and using it without permission is crossing a line. I see it differently. We've been storing it for years, constantly reminding him to take it, and he never does. At some point, it starts to feel less like we are doing a favour and more like we are just holding on to something he has no intention of using. I would rather put it to use than let it eventually spoil and be thrown out. Now I am wondering if I went too far. I feel like there should be some kind of limit to how long we are expected to store something for someone else, but at the same time, I did not explicitly tell him I would start using it. I am stuck between feeling practical about not wasting food and questioning whether I should have handled it differently. Was I wrong for suggesting something might be wrong with my wife's appetite? I feel like I stepped into a situation I did not fully understand, and now it has turned into a much bigger conflict than I expected. My wife, who is 28, has always had a very strong appetite. I am not talking about the occasional big meal. I mean she eats large amounts of food throughout the day, far more than most people I know, yet her weight barely changes. She stays around the same size, and aside from some weight gain years ago tied to medication, nothing about her appearance suggests anything unusual. What concerns me is not just how much she eats, but how she talks about hunger. She does not describe it as a mild feeling. She says it actually hurts, like real physical pain, if she does not eat enough or soon enough. Watching her eat what seems like a full day's worth of meals in just a few hours, and still hear her say she feels hungry, has started to make me uneasy. It does not feel normal to me, and I started to worry that there could be something medical going on. The problem is how I express that concern. During a conversation, I said something along the lines of it not seeming natural that someone could eat that much without gaining weight, and that it made me think something might be wrong. In my head, I was trying to point out a possible health issue, but the way it came out sounded harsh. She immediately took it as me criticizing her eating habits or calling her overweight, which was never my intention at all. From her perspective, it sounded like I was judging her or making a comment about her body. From mine, I was trying to make sense of something that honestly does not add up to me and suggest she might want to look into it. I even mentioned the idea that something internal could be affecting how her body processes food, not as an insult, but as a genuine concern. She was hurt and upset, and even after I tried to explain that I was not judging her or calling her anything negative, the damage seemed to already be done. I apologized for how it came across, but I also said that I still feel concerned and do not think I was wrong to bring it up. Now things are tense between us, and I am left wondering if I handled this completely the wrong way or if my concern itself was reasonable, but just poorly delivered. Did I overstep by buying my stepdaughter her graduation dress? I never expected something meant to make my stepdaughter happy would turn into such a tense situation. My stepdaughter, Marisol, is 17 and about to graduate with top marks. She is incredibly proud of her heritage, with roots from her mother's Navajo side and her father's Guatemalan background, and she had been dreaming of wearing a traditional Navajo dress for her graduation ceremony. At first, she had planned to borrow one from a relative on her mother's side, but one evening during dinner, I noticed something was off. When I asked about the dress, her whole expression fell, and she quietly admitted that she could no longer borrow it because of family conflict. She looked crushed, like something really important had just been taken away from her. I could not stand seeing her like that, so I asked if we could just buy one instead. She hesitated and told me those dresses can cost several $100s. I had already planned to buy her a luxury necklace as a graduation gift, so I told her we could forget that and put the money toward the dress instead. The moment I said that, her whole face lit up. She told me she would choose the dress over any jewelry without a second thought. The next day, she found a dress she absolutely loved, but it was located a few hours away. I suggested we turn it into a special day together so she could try it on and maybe look at a few others before deciding. She was so excited, and I made sure to tell her to pick a day that worked not just for us, but for our mother as well. I truly wanted her included. When the day came, I asked if her mother would be joining us, and Marisol told me no. I still had my husband go pick her up, thinking we would just go ahead and not let anything ruin the moment. But when he arrived, her mother was upset. She said that buying the dress was something she should be doing and that I had taken something meaningful away from her. What should have been a simple conversation quickly turned into a heated argument between them. Marisol called me in tears, caught in the middle of it all. Hearing her cry made my heart drop. I told her to take a breath and that we would slow everything down and figure it out properly. The next day, I asked Marisol to call her mother again so I could speak with her directly. I made sure Marisol stayed on the call because I wanted everything to be open and honest. I explained that I never meant to take anything away from her, and the only reason I offered to pay was because I knew the cost might be a burden. I told her clearly that if she wanted to be the one to buy the dress, she absolutely could. At first, she was defensive, but as we talked, her tone softened. Eventually, we came to a compromise. We would all go together, she would handle the accessories, and I would pay for the dress itself. When we finally made the trip, everything was calm. Marisol tried on the dress she loved, and seeing her in it was worth all the stress that came before. She looked proud, confident, and truly happy, which was all I wanted from the start. Even after that, her mother still believes I crossed a line and inserted myself into something that should have been her moment. I understand why she feels that way, but at the same time, I cannot shake the feeling that I was just trying to make sure Marisol did not miss out on something that meant so much to her. Did I ruin my friendship by asking her to change her look for my wedding? I am getting married soon, and I asked one of my closest friends, Marissa, to be one of my bridesmaids. We have known each other since we were teenagers, so having her beside me on such an important day meant a lot. I put together little gift boxes for all the bridesmaids, and inside I included a note explaining the look I had in mind for the wedding. I asked everyone to wear a green dress in any style, silver heels, and soft, natural makeup since I was hiring a makeup artist for the day. Marissa, as always, had a very bold personal style. She wears dark clothing, dramatic eye makeup, and a very striking look that really stands out. I have always admired how confident she is with it, and I think she looks amazing. But for my wedding, I had pictured a softer, more uniform look for the bridal party. A few hours after I gave her the box, she messaged me asking if that meant she was not allowed to wear her usual makeup. I explained that if she wanted to be a bridesmaid, I was hoping she would follow the same look as the others, but she was absolutely welcome to come as a guest and wear whatever made her feel like herself. That did not go over well. She replied that if she could not be herself, then she did not want to be there at all. I tried to explain that I was not trying to change who she is. I just wanted everyone to match for one day. She said I was trying to turn my friends into part of a theme and that I cared more about how things looked than how people felt. Since then, she has not spoken to me. I have heard from others that she is telling people she is not welcome at my wedding, which is not true at all. I feel like I tried to meet her halfway, but now I am wondering if asking her to adjust her look, even just for one day, was too much and ended up hurting our friendship more than I expected. Did I go too far by warning my friend about the man she wanted to marry? I feel like I may have set off something I cannot take back, but at the same time I cannot shake the feeling that staying quiet would have been worse. My husband is a long-time friend, I will call him Daniel, who recently lost his wife after a long and painful illness. It was a sad situation, but the truth is their marriage was never healthy. Daniel has struggled for years with drinking, he does not keep a steady job, and from what I have seen, his late wife carried far more than her share while dealing with his behaviour. What shocked me most was how quickly he moved on. Within just a few weeks of her passing, he was already on dating apps, talking to new women, and even travelling between countries to meet them. He often comes to our country because his late wife was from here, and that is where he now looks for new relationships. Not long ago, I went to visit a close friend of mine. I will call her Maya. She has had a very difficult past when it comes to relationships and had spent years avoiding dating altogether because of how badly things had gone for her. So when she told me, almost glowing with excitement, that she had met someone kind, charming, and completely different from anyone before, I was relieved for her. She even said they were already talking about getting married. As she kept describing him, my stomach dropped. Every detail lined up. It was Daniel. In that moment, I felt torn, but I knew I could not pretend I did not recognize him. I told her everything I knew. I told her about his drinking, about his lack of stability, about the way his last marriage had really been behind closed doors. I told her I was afraid she was stepping into something that could hurt her deeply, especially if she ended up moving to another country where she would be isolated. The look on her face changed completely. She went from excited to shaken, and after a long conversation, she told me she would end things with him. A few days later, Daniel started calling me, asking why she had suddenly stopped responding. I avoided the question at first, but then he called again, clearly drunk, accusing me of destroying his only chance at a future and saying I would regret it. It was intense and honestly a little unsettling. Now my husband is upset with me. He says I should apologize and try to fix things, that maybe this could have been a turning point for Daniel, that marriage might have helped him change. But I cannot agree with that. I watched him stay the same even when his wife was suffering through a serious illness. I do not believe a new relationship would suddenly transform him. I keep thinking about Maya and how hopeful she sounded. I could not let her walk into something like that without knowing the truth. Still, now everything feels tense, and I am being told I may have crossed a line I cannot uncross. Was I wrong for taking a bet instead of giving it up as the only single one? For the past few summers, my group of friends and I have taken a trip together over the July holiday. We always go to the same coastal town, and one of my friends has family there who usually help arrange a place for us to stay. This time, they booked a house with 4 bedrooms, each with a double bed. There were supposed to be 4 couples and me, the only one not in a relationship. Before the trip, it was casually mentioned that someone would bring an air mattress for extra sleeping space, which would be set up in the basement. There was also some talk about one couple possibly staying at a nearby family home if another pair ended up joining us, but that never happened. Aside from that, no one actually decided who would sleep where. I ended up driving up with one couple, and they had brought the air mattress. On the way, they realized they had forgotten sheets for it, so we messaged everyone else to see if someone could bring extras. Nobody could. When we arrived at the house, it was just the 3 of us. I asked them directly if they thought it would be fine if I took one of the bedrooms, and they said yes without hesitation. So we each picked a room. Not long after, another couple arrived and claimed one of the remaining bedrooms. Then the last 2 couples showed up together. The moment they walked in and saw that I had taken a room, the mood shifted immediately. One of the couples grabbed the final bedroom, which meant the last pair, the ones whose family had helped arrange everything, were left with the air mattress that still did not have sheets. They were clearly upset and said I had put them in a bad position by taking a bed when I was the only one there without a partner. They kept saying I should have thought about them and that it was obvious I should have taken the air mattress instead. They refused to use it and I ended up going to sleep at the nearby family house. The rest of the trip felt uncomfortable and tense. What was supposed to be a fun weekend turned into quiet tension and awkward conversations. After we got back, that same couple, people I had known for nearly a decade, told me they did not want to continue the friendship because of what happened. I have been replaying everything in my head since. I did not take anything without asking. I arrived first, checked with the people I was with, and there were no set rules about sleeping arrangements. At the same time, they seemed to believe there was an unspoken expectation that I should have stepped aside simply because I was single. Now I am left wondering if I missed something obvious or if they expected something that was never actually agreed on. Am I wrong for refusing a trip if we cannot share a bed? This situation has turned into something much bigger than a simple vacation, and now I feel completely stuck. My brother and I were excited to plan a big family trip, the first one in years where all the cousins, who are now adults, could finally be together again. We started looking at large rental homes and agreed we would split the cost so everyone could stay under one roof like we used to. At the beginning, my mother mentioned that she would prefer if my fiancé and I did not share a room. That caught me off guard, but I was very clear in my response. I told her that was not something I was willing to agree to. We have lived together for over 2 years, we share a home, and our wedding is only a few months away. From my point of view, being asked to sleep separately felt unreasonable and out of step with our reality as a couple. After that conversation, things seemed to move forward normally. We spent weeks sharing rental options, discussing details, and no one brought up sleeping arrangements again. I thought the issue had either been dropped or quietly accepted. Then everything shifted. My brother told me that our mother had already booked a house without telling me. When I called her, she calmly said that my fiancé and I could either sleep in separate beds or find somewhere else to stay. I was stunned. I asked why she had not been direct earlier, and she said her earlier preference was meant to communicate her expectation all along. That is where things really broke down for me. I reminded her that I had clearly set a boundary, and that calling something a preference is not the same as setting a rule. She responded by saying that since she booked the house, she could treat it like her own home and decide how things work. I pointed out that we are still expected to pay a full share, which is a significant amount, so it does not feel right that she gets to control something as personal as where and how we sleep. Now the only alternative is staying in a nearby hotel, which is more expensive and changes the entire experience. It means being separated from the group, losing the shared space, and constantly travelling back and forth. It turns what was supposed to be a relaxed family trip into something far less enjoyable. The only reason I'm even considering going at this point is because my brother, who has special needs, is very excited about the trip. That makes it harder to walk away completely. My fiancée has even said she is willing to go along with the separate sleeping arrangement for his sake, but I'm struggling with the idea of giving in. It feels like I would be accepting something that disrespects our relationship, especially coming from family members who already do not fully support us. Now I'm left trying to decide what matters more, standing firm on what I believe is a reasonable boundary, or compromising to keep the peace for the sake of family, even if it means feeling uncomfortable the entire time. Was I wrong for ditching my birthday dinner plans and going alone? My birthday turned into a situation I did not expect at all, and now I am wondering if I handled it the wrong way. For some background, my wife is someone who needs structure and detailed plans for almost everything. She has been this way for years, and I know it is tied to how her mind works, so I try to be understanding. But lately I have been completely worn down from work, and all I wanted for my birthday was one simple, relaxed evening with no pressure. When she asked me what I wanted to do, I told her very clearly that I did not want anything planned. I said I just wanted to go somewhere easy, like a casual chain restaurant, and decide in a moment what I felt like eating. I even gave examples like maybe pasta or maybe takeout, depending on my mood that day. I repeated several times that I did not want reservations, did not want to dress up, and did not want anything fancy. I just wanted to come home, go out for a laid-back meal, and relax. As the week went on, she kept asking for more details. What time, what place, whether we needed a reservation. Every time I gave the same answer. I wanted to decide when the day came. I thought I was being clear, but she seemed frustrated that I would not lock anything in. On the day of my birthday, I finally decided I wanted something simple and familiar. I was honestly looking forward to just sitting down somewhere casual, eating, and having a quiet night. When I got home around 5, I was expecting to head out together like we talked about. Instead, I walked in and saw her completely dressed up, ready to go somewhere formal. She told me she had made a reservation at an upscale restaurant in the city as a surprise, and that we needed to leave soon to make it on time. The moment she said it, I felt my mood drop. It was the exact opposite of everything I had asked for. I told her I did not want that. I reminded her of all the times I said I wanted something simple. She got upset and said she had put in a lot of effort to plan this for me and that it was supposed to be special. The conversation quickly turned into an argument, with both of us feeling unheard. In the end, I told her to forget it and left on my own. I went to a casual restaurant by myself, at the quiet meal I originally wanted, and came home later. But instead of feeling better, I walked into another argument. She was hurt that I rejected what she planned, and I was frustrated that my wishes had been ignored in the first place. Now things feel tense between us. I understand she was trying to do something nice, but I cannot shake the feeling that she did not actually listen to what I wanted. At the same time, I wonder if leaving like that made everything worse than it needed to be. Was I wrong for refusing to drink at my friend's wedding? I have never been someone who drinks alcohol. There is no big story behind it, it is just not something I enjoy, and all of my friends know that about me. My friend Marissa and I have known each other since we were about 13, so when she asked me to be a bridesmaid at her wedding, I was genuinely happy and honoured. The tension started the night before the wedding at a dinner her family hosted for the wedding group. Throughout the evening, drinks were passed around, and every time I politely declined. At one point, everyone at the table was handed a shot for a toast. I took the glass so I would not stand out, but when it came time to drink, I left it untouched. After everyone finished, Marissa looked straight at me and asked if I was really not going to drink it. I calmly said no and even offered it to her so it would not go to waste. Instead of brushing it off, she stared at me and made a comment that sounded irritated, asking if I really had to make this into something right now. I remember feeling caught off guard because I had not made a scene at all. I had just quietly not taken the drink like I always do. The next day, things only became more uncomfortable. While we were getting ready, drinks were constantly being offered again. One of the bridesmaids asked if I never drink at all, and I explained that it just is not for me. That should have been the end of it, but it seemed to make me stand out more. I kept getting asked over and over if I wanted something to drink, and each time I said no. On top of that, I had driven myself to the wedding, so I was not planning to drink anyway. Later during the celebration, the photographer set up a moment where all of us bridesmaids were supposed to hold glasses of wine and drink them together for a video. I did not want to ruin the moment, so I pretended to take a sip and then quietly passed my drink to another bridesmaid who offered to take it. I thought I handled it in a way that did not draw attention, but Marissa noticed. She came over clearly annoyed and told me that it would not hurt me to just drink it, saying it was no different than having juice or water. That comment stuck with me. It felt like something small had turned into a much bigger issue for her, and I could not understand why. I had not refused loudly, I had not judged anyone else for drinking, and I had tried to go along with things without actually crossing my own boundary. Still, it seemed like my choice not to drink upset her far more than I ever expected. Now that the wedding is over, I keep replaying everything in my head, wondering if I missed something or if I somehow made her feel uncomfortable on a day that was supposed to be about her. At the same time, I cannot shake the feeling that I was being pressured to do something I have always been clear about not wanting to do. Was I wrong for telling my friend she likely doesn't remember 9/11? I have a friend, Marissa, who is 27 now. She often tells a story about where she was on September 11th. According to her, she was sitting in a classroom when teachers rolled in televisions and showed the children what was happening live. She tells it in a very detailed way, like she clearly remembers everything, and she brings it up almost every time the topic comes up. The thing is, her timeline never quite adds up. She was only 3 years old at the time. In the past, she told me she never even went to preschool and started school later at 5, so the idea of her being in a classroom already did not make sense. Recently, when someone asked what kind of class a 3-year-old would even be in, she quickly changed her answer and said it must have been a daycare instead. Then people started asking more questions, and more parts of the story began to shift. She said she remembered everything so clearly because it was so traumatic that it became a core memory. Then she added that her mother had to evacuate a tall office building in another state because people were afraid more attacks would happen. That I clearly remember her telling me before that her mother did not even have a job during those early years. When that was pointed out, she changed the explanation again and said that event was actually why her mother stopped working. At that point, it turned into a group conversation where a few people kept questioning her, and she kept adjusting details to make it fit. I stayed quiet in front of everyone because I did not want to embarrass her. Later, when we were alone, I told her gently that her story did not really line up and that it seemed unlikely she would have such a clear memory from that age. I suggested that maybe she was remembering things she had heard later or seen in documentaries rather than something she personally experienced in detail. She did not take it well. She got upset and said I was dismissing her and calling her a liar. Now things are tense between us, and I am wondering if I crossed the line by saying anything at all. I did not mean to attack her. I just felt like someone needed to be honest with her, especially since the story keeps changing and does not seem consistent.